Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Carol Allman Morton, and I am Ollie's Executive Director. I'm so glad to welcome you today. As we begin with gratitude and humility, we acknowledge that we are learning, speaking, and gathering on the ancestral homelands of the Mohican people, who are the indigenous peoples of this land. Despite tremendous hardship in being forced from here, today their community resides in Wisconsin and is known as the Stockbridge-Munsee community. We pay honor and respect to their ancestors, past and present, as we commit to building a more inclusive and equitable space for all. We have a number of programs coming up in the next 6 weeks. I encourage you to take a look at our calendar, berkshireollie.org/events. I'm going to highlight just a few for you now. We have a number of distinguished speaker lectures coming up, including on the 29th at 7, Michael Greenberg on his book, The Great Miscalculation, about the Citicorp Tower in New York. November 6th at 7 p.m., Marty Barron, a Q&A with him on his book, Collision of Power. On November 13th, a double header, Buck Beeson on the history of steam power in the morning, and then Neil Pilson from CBS Sports on 50 years of TV sports in the afternoon. We have 3 free and open to the public talks this month. Steve Vladeck and Tom Garrity on How Far Have We Fallen and What Will It Take to Climb Back, Monday, October 20th at 3:30 in the afternoon. And this is via Zoom. Also, Tom will be back just 18 days later, nope, 8 days later after that, with Aziz Hook on How Does an Authoritarian State Work? That's the 28th at 3:30, also via Zoom. And then Barbara Vinier, former president of Berkshire Community College, has written a novel, her first, while she's working on her second. She'll be here for an author talk and book signing. That'll be hybrid on Tuesday the 28th at 2 p.m. And then we also have a free and open to the public reading of 2 short plays by the Ollie Players dealing with the American Revolution, written by Jesse Waldinger and directed by Barbara Waldinger on the 19th at 2 p.m. There are a number of additional workshops, lectures, and book talks coming up, including many things in November, which I haven't even gotten to. So I encourage you to take a look at the calendar. And I want to thank Naomi and all of the critics on this panel for coming together today. And I'm going to turn things over to Naomi Spatz. Welcome, everybody.
Hi, welcome. First of all, let me tell you that we're having a little problem with 2 of our critics will be joining us shortly, I hope, Peter Bergman and also Jeff Borak. And I would be remiss and a bad wife if I didn't add on to what's coming up, is that my husband's play on Benedict Arnold will be one of the final features of Kate Kidd's class on the Revolution. And that will be on November 5th and open to the public, and it is at 2 o'clock
2 o'clock
at BCC. So I've read it; it's wonderful, but I'm not a critic, so I can't talk about it. But welcome Paula and Jeannie and Macey, and I hope to see Jeff and Peter shortly. So as we said, I'm Naomi Spatz, and I have been. Oh, ah. I think, is that Peter? Steve? And I have been hosting the critics panel for 7 years. It began with the Berkshire Previews course, which I started about. No, I did not start it, but I joined it about a dozen years ago and inherited it. It has evolved into a 6-week course with 10 artistic directors presenting their seasons to Ollie members, and they are delighted to do it and graciously answer within 12 hours for any invitation. The theaters range from the Great Barrington Public Theater in the south to Williamstown in the north, the Bridge in the west, and also Chester in the east. Some 6 years ago, I invited critics to join a panel in the spring to discuss their expectations of the Berkshire theater scene and what they wanted to see and will see that summer. Then one critic suggested, why aren't we meeting at the end of the season? And so we started doing that about 6 years ago. So here we are with 5 theater critics, ironically on Zoom, to talk about the 2025 season and also our future. We are fortunate in having a group of engaging critics. Peter Bergman of the Berkshire Edge, Jeff Borak of the Berkshire Eagle, Macey Levin of Berkshire on Stage, Jeannie Woods, Berkshire on Stage, and a new member of our panel, Paula Kaplan-Reiss, who reviews for Berkshire on Stage and is also an actress. She acted most recently in Jeannie's production 2 weeks ago, and has acted in All My Sons at the Ghent Playhouse, and is on the board of the Berkshire Critics Association with Macey, by the way, and Peter. We are very fortunate to have this multi-talented group in the Berkshires. Most have acted and even won awards for acting, like Jeff Borak. Most have taught theater, like Macey on Long Island and Sheffield, and Peter with Elder Hostel, now Rhodes Scholar, Jeannie as a professor in Ohio, Morocco, and Taiwan, and Jeff in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. They are journalists, novelists, playwrights, and very generous people, all respond quickly and positively to our invitations to talk to OLLI members. They've all had theater in their lives since childhood and adore talking about it. So most have New York roots, so I invite you to a freewheeling discussion. Perhaps I don't have to say this to New Yorkers, but please feel free to jump in with your comments. And also, audience, please feel free to send in your questions. I believe Jeannie is monitoring the chat box, right?
I can. I will. Oh, wait.
Yes.
I've lost you. Hold on.
Okay. Today, I would like to open the discussion. The phone is calling in. I think either Peter might be calling me, so we'll see. I'd like to open the discussion today with your most favored theatrical events of the season. Let us start with the top three and try to compare our personal reactions. We can look at productions, surprises, originals, classic. Jeff normally has his list of 10, and if he joins in, we could get some from him. But also, Paula and Macey have just been meeting over the Berkeys, which is the nice award that the Berkshire Theatre Association gives to many different parts of the theater community. It's a great event. I congratulate you for doing it. The theater people are so happy to see each other because they often have not met. So this is very nice. Anyway, may I start with you, Paula? As a new person here, we might as well put you on the spot quickly. Could you tell us what the Berkeys have found to be the three most interesting productions of the season?
Well, we just actually submitted our nominations, so we don't know yet. We will find out once the nominations are whittled down to the finalists that we will vote on. But I will say that the first time that I watched this kind of critics meeting that I'm a part of now was when I saw Macey and realized that he was my director in 1976 when I was in the Ball Soprano at my library. So that was very exciting for me. So I thought, well, this is a full circle moment. But I will say that there were a number of, the beauty of the Berkshires is that, as somebody who's pretty new to the area, I think Jeannie and we came like around the same year. The beauty of the Berkshires is that you get Broadway talent, literally, and it's not far, and you don't have trouble parking, and there's no traffic, and it's affordable. So I have always been here, since I've lived here, overwhelmed with the amount of talent and the quality of theater that we see here. There's so many theaters, and I don't even get to go to half of them. But I will say that the things that I've most enjoyed have been surprising because they've been new plays or plays that I've never heard of. And then there's also some favorites that are more traditional. So I'll say I've been tremendously impressed with the work of Ankrum Theater for the Arts. And my favorite show was one that they just put on, which was Penelope, which was like kind of almost like a one-woman musical, although she had great people that played instruments that were sort of like the chorus behind her. But right,
People played instruments.
right, and they all and they're playing the bass and the violin, and you realize, wait, they can sing too, and they can act too. So they do a lot of original works, and Penelope was one of them. And also another show that they did was, I think, Where the Ocean Meets the Sea.
Yes.
Was that the name of it? That was another terrific two-person show, but also had two musicians that interacted with the actors. So, Ankrum is a small theater, but they do highly original work. And I highly recommend people to check them out because they do some really terrific stuff. The other thing that I would say on the more traditional end is that I had the privilege to see almost all the musicals that McHayden did this summer, and they do more traditional musicals. They did Guys and Dolls, and they did Escape from Margaritaville, and they did Jesus Christ Superstar. And what I've found going to them, it's a real summer stock production. So the cast goes from show to show to show, and they are so talented. They can sing, they can dance, they can act. It's not a huge stage, but they do very complicated choreography. So I've been really impressed with their work as well. So those are there's some of them. The other show that I really loved was at Chester, which is also a theater that's which direction did you say it was in? The east, the
East.
west, whatever you said.
Yeah.
East. Not coming from around here, I don't know what direction I'm going. But anyway, they do some remarkable work. And we saw 100 Words for Snow, which was a one-person show. And she was just, a young woman who was outstanding. And it was an outstanding production. So those are surprises for me in terms of, you know, places that you don't expect you're going to see this tremendous talent and tremendous work. So those are things that I would recommend.
Thank you so much, Paula. I do want to say that the critics had, over the years, kept talking about shows they saw at McHayden, and I hadn't included McHayden in my group. I guess I thought that they were doing more old theater, and that also they were so ambitious with what they were putting on. And because the critics kept saying how wonderful it was, I started going, and also then included John in artistic directors, and that was quite a thrill. The enthusiasm and stuff, and yes, they all put on what sounds as ambitious, and they do it so well. That's what I found in last of it.
They do. Yeah. Very fun.
Macey, I guess you must be happy with at least one of her choices, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, a couple of correction. The theater that you mentioned out west is not Bridge Theater, it's Bridge Street Theater. And they are
Oh,
absolutely
thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I stand corrected. You're a great teacher.
Years of experience. Anyway, also at McHayden, Nathan Lane started there. His picture is on the wall in the lobby.
Mhm.
Okay, just throw that out.
Oh, wait, let me welcome Jeff Borak. I'm so glad you joined us. I did introduce you slightly in your absence, and if you want to check up on it, you can watch the tape. But I did say where you did your work, and also that you had won acting awards. I was very proud of that, and that you taught in Addis Ababa or administrative. And also, let me tell you that your mute is on. Can you unmute yourself?
Point to your ears.
Hmm?
Point to your ears.
You're still muted.
No, he's
There we go.
There we
Oh,
are.
great. We had just started, and Paula picked her 3 top plays. We'll get to. Macey was just commenting on them. So
Sure.
good to see you.
Nice to be here.
Hello, Jeffrey.
Hi, Macey.
Nice to see you again. 2 days ago.
I know.
Macey, do you want to add your favorites or you want to talk about Paula's favorites?
Well, oh, I
I
may
think you should talk about your own favorites,
I want
Macey.
to talk about my stuff.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
I do have to agree with Paula that Penelope was wonderful. It was almost magical. The woman, Grace McLean, who was one of the writers of the play, was the solo performer, beautiful voice. She held the stage. It was breathtaking.
Mhm.
And speaking of breathtaking, though it's not this regular season, this past Sunday, Jeff and I and Peter saw Red Like Fruit at Bridge Street, and I was moved. The last word in my review was gripping. Interesting piece of work. Not a regular kind of a thing with a big set and all that stuff. Just two people, one prop, primarily manuscript from which he reads. And he's not reading it because he doesn't know his lines, but that's part of the structure of the show. I was very impressed by that. Actually, I'm impressed a lot by our three small theaters that we have here, that being Bridge Street and Ancram and Chester. As much as I respect the larger places, I really love the work they do. Experimental, very interesting, well done, and they ain't got the money the other people got, but they do the work, and that's what impresses me. I'm also
That's great. That's why I cut down the time for the artistic directors to 45 minutes, so we could double the number of artistic directors and include such lovely little theaters who are doing original work.
also, since I live close to it, I may be the only one reviewing Sharon Playhouse, and their work has grown over the last several years with a new artistic director who happens to have Broadway experience. And when they put out their season, to me, it was like almost all retreads. $1 Million Quartet, Annie, Sylvia, what the hell was next? Oh, I said Sylvia.
Mousetrap?
Oh, bless you, Mousetrap, yeah. And very
So we
impressed.
forget Mousetrap, right?
Yeah, very impressed by the work, especially the musicals. They have a choreographer who does wonderful stuff. And it's a little bit larger than the three small theaters I mentioned, but not quite as big as Barrington or the others. And it's an old house. It's an old playhouse, but I love watching their work. Now, I also am involved with the company. They do a thing like the 10 by 10, which they call Writer's Playground. And I've had written a couple of plays that have been done. I've directed some that have been done. And this year, my wife, Gloria, she wrote a play which I directed and everybody loved. It was a takeoff on Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Very funny and very touching. So as far as specific works are concerned, again, Penelope is up there. I like the Mousetrap that we did here. I did not see BTG's. Oh, Fuzzy at Barrington was a wonderful piece. Fuzzy, if you don't know the show, is a hand puppet. And there's another hand puppet. And they are like real people. You watch and they sit, well, they don't sing. John Cariani, who's a playwright and an actor, he's off stage with a microphone singing and talking for the puppets. It is a charming, sweet show. I just loved it. I could go see it again.
Has an Avenue Q kind of feel, with using the puppets.
By the way, Jeff, I borrowed from your usual annual 10 top productions, but I said, let's just have for openers the top 3 so that we can, and then we could compare our reactions to it. Jeannie,
Hi.
coming in
Um,
from Boston.
Yes, in from Boston. I agree with Fuzzy and 100 Words for Snow. I loved both of those. I won't put those on my list. I'll have three others. I have to say that The Weekend, a Stockbridge Story, was also a beautifully produced, performed, written piece that has one of the themes that I've seen in this year's season, which is the need for love and forgiveness among one another. I loved Camelot. I didn't expect to love it because I knew it was a problematic musical, but I loved the context and the tweaks that Alan Paul and the choices that he made in it, and his reason for doing it. He put together three works: Camelot, Eisenhower, and N/A, with a political angle from each of them. But the one from Camelot that he put in his notes is violence is not strength, compassion is not weakness, which is a quote from Arthur, which I thought was something for our times. And then most recently, Metamorphoses. Isidore Wolf's wonderful production of the Mary Zimmerman devised play, and she gives a note, notes in her director's notes about the Greek myths always don't have happy endings, of course, Greek and Roman myths, but it was a beautiful, challenging production done with a full pool on stage. I believe it is still running, and it was wonderful ensemble cast. But she says, that's Metamorphoses. And she said, there is a profound hope in knowing that change is certain and we are not helpless. And there again, I thought that that was a wonderful message for our directors to be putting out. And going back to the theme of compassion, the other also at BTG was Elephant Man, which may have gotten lost in the shuffle. It was very early in the season, but I thought a wonderfully configured production.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. I did want to bring up Metamorphosis. Peter's still not with us, but he gave it a very nice review recently, and I was going to ask Jeff Borak, and I haven't seen it yet. I'm seeing it on Sunday, but Jeff, could you join us and
Sure.
tell us your top three and or about any other play you're thinking of?
I don't know if let's just do standouts for me because I don't know that I want to rank them. I would say Not About Nightingales at the Williamstown Theatre Festival knocked my socks off for a whole variety of reasons. A Tennessee Williams play few of us know of, and when I read it, I was surprised at what a strong piece of writing that it was and how atypical of Williams. And I thought the production was just raw and visceral and just absolutely brilliantly staged. It was not something that I anticipated. Also that I didn't anticipate was A Bronx Tale at the Mack Hayden Theater in what I thought overall was one of their better seasons. I've not seen the musical A Bronx Tale. I have seen the film. And I thought it's a really good piece of material. And I think the production the Mac did was just really extraordinary. I have a lot of admiration for James. I think, and I have a long history, a checkered past with the Mack Hayden Theater. And I think there's an integrity to their work now that I've not seen before, even with productions that don't work. I was also taken by a play. I was taken generally by the work at Chester Theatre this year under their new co-artistic directorship. I thought the work overall was really strong and interesting. I think it followed in the kind of pattern that's been set by their predecessors. Hero Marguerite's performance in 100 Words for Snow just knocked my socks off, as did, oh, wait a minute, I got his name right here. the lead actor, and not only the lead actor, the only actor in Mr. Joy, Godfrey Simmons. An extraordinary piece of theater that sort of in design concept sort of reimagined how that space could be used. I was also very taken by the piano lesson at Shakespeare and Company. Wilson's not an easy playwright to do. This play is particularly challenging because the set is an important character. And when I saw they were doing this in the Bernstein, I wondered, how is that set going to work in that space? And it worked perfectly. It was just, I thought, a beautifully done production that really got to the heart of Wilson's writing. A production, three others actually, quickly. One was Maggie Mancinelli's Cahill's production of Once at the Rep this summer. This is now the third time in 3 years that I've seen Once, and James Warwick just directed it at the Majestic. This production came with one failing, oddly enough, the male character, which is one of the most thankless roles in musical theater. But overall, the production was just really, really strong and came as close to what I consider the gold standard for the productions that I've seen. And that was the one Berkshire Theatre Group did, I think it was 2 seasons ago, maybe 3, at the Colonial Theatre. I was also taken away by a production that I wasn't there to review. I saw Other Desert Cities at Dorset Theatre Festival. It was a play that caught my attention when I saw it on their schedule. Because of my own scheduling issues, I couldn't get to it in time to review, but I did buy a ticket for the last performance. It's a play that I find extraordinarily strong piece of writing. John Robin Bates sort of reminds me, especially in this play, of a contemporary Arthur Miller. But then you put the power of the writing and how timely this play strikes me now, and the cast that was put together, it was just an extraordinary 2.5 hours of theater. So those are my standouts for the summer. I would also toss Mary Jane at Bridge Street Theatre.
Well, we have quite an interesting collection of people's remembrances and loves. Bates, he did something recently that was quite popular, and I'm trying to remember what his play is.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So, all right. So then a slightly different topic, but certainly similar to it all. What were your big surprises? Were there some plays that you were surprised they put on and how much you reacted to them because the production was unique, or that it was more enjoyable, or I don't want to ask about less enjoyable, but things that we are sorry we missed this summer. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I'm going to throw out something that people may not agree with. I was not crazy about Camelot. 3 reasons. One, the young woman who played Guinevere starts off being very young and giddy, and then as she goes on, she continues to be giddy, not womanly. And I found that somewhat disturbing because I think, compromised the production. Number 2, they all had wonderful voices. I'll give them that. Number 2, Lancelot spoke with a French accent, sometimes difficult to get through it. And then when he spoke, there was no accent. Mm-hmm. Third thing, which Peter mentioned in a review of his, they cut a song. The song is called Take Me to the Fair. And this is where Guinevere, before she has fallen in love with Lancelot, tries to get the various knights to really give him a very, very difficult time. And she doesn't say kill him, but she wants them to really give him a terrible time. And this gives a whole different view of what kind of a woman she is. And we did not get it because the song was cut. Now, the show was done originally, Alan produced it, directed it in Washington. And this was the production that was the script that was done in Washington. And I'm amazed that nobody picked up the exclusion of that song, except for Peter. And it hit me too, that the song was not there. And I was wondering why.
That's
I
interesting.
would,
Well, you know that Alan Paul, of course, came from Washington to
Yes.
the Acton stage, and he came with musicals that he had done, and also, as he said, for this first one, he did one he'd already done in Washington because he thought it would be less challenging for the first time. And yes, Camelot too. Interesting. Um,
I was surprised. I'm going to agree with Macey here, although I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry that song was cut, and I understand why it's there, but I've never liked that song. And every time I've come across it on the recording, I usually always skip over it. I found it a really annoying piece. But a show that surprised me, even though I had read the script in preparation for doing the interview, was How to Not Save the World with Mr. Bezos. I thought, I have misgivings about the play itself, but the production just blew me away. I thought the direction and especially the acting was fearless and courageous and just never let go from the moment it began, and it built perfectly. It certainly gave a lot to think about. So that was a big surprise for me.
Jeff,
that's right.
Jeff,
We
I wanna-
always go ahead, Paula.
No, I want to say that I agree with you that it was I had no clue what to expect. And here you see this woman who is very pregnant, but not pregnant in the play. She just happens to be a very pregnant woman in this very physical role with a very spare set with this really cool light hanging. And I remember the most fun was the fact checker. There was like a fact checker who was hysterical, who just, was such a sign of the times. And that was a very cool
Yeah.
one. I really enjoyed it.
The talk of Washington reminded me. We first saw Metamorphosis in Washington D.C., and I think Mary Zimmerman herself gave out shower curtains for people sitting in the front rows because we were going to be splashed. Then she went to New York and directed a play for the Metropolitan Opera. And guess what? There was a swimming pool on stage. I don't know if you took the water away from her, whether she'd still be able to direct and play. But anyway, Jeannie, you looked like you wanted to say something on.
Well, you were talking about some surprises. I just saw The Mother at Shakespeare and Company.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's kind of a hard play to like because it's very, very painful, dysfunctional family. But I thought particularly the young actresses work in that, aging from, I think she starts at 12 or 14 up to 50, and just the clarity of diction. I've seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly this summer with being able to understand what people say on stage. Just when I think it's my hearing, then I talk to other people and they can't hear it either. So it's I really appreciate not only someone who has a beautiful dialect or speech work, it wasn't a dialect, but also who makes the best of her moments and deals with a very challenging script, because if you've seen, The Mother is about a mother and her two children. She raises them, takes us from, I think, the 50s all the way up to 2000 and something. And it is actually Paula Vogel, who's a wonderful playwright, her own story. I found that gave a lot of weight to being able to kind of plow through it to see what this remarkable playwright had been through in her own life. So I think it's definitely a worthy thing to see, not as heart affirming as Fuzzy or The Weekend, both of which I loved, or as I still go back to Metamorphoses as a play that as a production. I had seen the original Zimmerman production in Chicago, and to see how that was scaled down and what they had to do to, did you know they had to go dig down to the concrete foundation of the building to put that pool in? So congratulations to the scene designers and everyone who made that happen.
Yeah, we were going to put on something at the Unicorn. In fact, is when I invited Kate McGuire to address Ollie as a great theatrical producer for this area. And first we were going to do it at the Unicorn until they remembered that there's a large hole in the middle of the stage. Perhaps so the Colonial.
Naomi, you may also, I am looking at the chat. So if people have comments or questions they'd like to put into the mix here, I will alert you to them.
Oh, thank you very much. The other major issue I wanted to discuss today, and we can come back to any of the plays individually, is what people's thought of the future for theater in the Berkshires, and where do you think we're going next season? We kind of got through COVID in an odd way, where two of our artistic directors, that is Kate McGuire and Julie Boyd, developed the model that was used all across the country for how plays could be put on with the actors and the audience safe. It still boggles the mind. I thought that they were working within the American Producers League, but no, these two women from the Berkshires were the ones who were negotiating with Actors Equity and others to develop that program. But I talked to one of the artistic directors who said all the theaters are being hit. It isn't that their audiences are not back, and it isn't that money's not coming in, except expenses are going up, and that the donations of people are not going up in the same way. So they're working very hard and trying to maintain and grow an audience. But I think it's a little provocative in some ways, or it's a little, what do you think is going to be happening? Do you have any sense of audience and future? Jeff, you are usually our best crystal ball gazer here.
Yeah. I think it's worrisome. And I think mostly from the funding point of view. I also think because Actors Equity and these theaters work for what used to be called colorblind casting, but diversity in casting, those cursed letters DEI these days, and how much of an impact that may have on grants, for instance. I know a lot of the theaters in particular get money from the Mass Cultural Council, which in turn gets some money from the National Endowment for the Arts. And we all know the peril that the NEA is in, and that restrictions that are being made on the NEA for giving out grants. So that's something of concern. How you develop a program that will stay true to what you define as your artistic mission, and at the same time bring in a wider swath of audiences. I mean, for me, in a sense, well, it's interesting. I mean, Williamstown is totally redefining itself. This summer was a perfect model for what Williamstown intends to be, like it or not. And I think actually, I just noticed one chat. I think people, at least on the basis of this summer, are not going to be indifferent to what they saw at Williamstown, and how that develops over the next couple of years will be interesting. I'm of two minds. There's a part of me that found it, even though I was blown away by Not About Nightingales, there were other aspects there that I thought, oh, God help us, this really the future of the Williamstown Theater Festival. On the other hand, I think we need to be open to change. The question is, what kind of change will it be? What kind of audiences are Williamstown going to bring in? For the other theaters, I sometimes find the programming choices at Shakespeare and Company the most interesting in terms of how Alan really wants to balance the company's namesake playwright with contemporary work. And there was a time in its ancient history when that really wasn't the case. Tony Simotas really started moving more in that direction, and Alan has really taken up that banner and being playful at it as well. We've now had the cabaret, we've had the circus and the kids this summer. So I think the moves that Shakespeare and Company are making kind of intrigue me the most in terms of balancing classical theater with not only 20th century theater, but brand new plays as well. He's giving over his stage to world premieres and the readings. So it's still a gray-haired audience. And how you attract younger people into the theaters also is something that will interest me.
May I
Yeah,
step
that's
in here
very-
for a minute?
Sure.
Naomi, I have a couple of things from the chat. Kenneth Ross says, Williamstown to me crashed and burned with its going in a new direction. And Nancy Gilbert says, I wonder if the saturation of playhouses with all the competition for audiences has contributed to the financial challenges of Berkshire theaters. And of course, that is a case. Kate McGuire in her Nancy Vale lecture noted the number of seats that need to be filled has grown exponentially over the last few years. But also we are up against the a time where things are uncertain. So people giving money or even buying a season subscription may seem like a rash thing to do. They wait until the last minute and go if they can. So those are all factors, I think. And maybe some others would like to chime in here on those subjects.
I
Yeah,
think
well-
that's an interesting point you raised, Jeannie, about the subscription sales. People are being more careful and not buying season tickets in advance. They are being more careful about their choices because they just don't have the money, the income, the resources. I don't think, though, that the number of playhouses, I think that's really good and healthy for us. It contributes to a really lively season. I mean, there are times when I'm driving to one theater at night and I'm looking at the clock in the car and I'm thinking, gosh, at this same time, there are people in cars that are heading for the Mac Hayden and whatever other theaters. And I think that contributes. And I think you're also finding that the theaters are not producing each other's work in the sense that I think the theaters have individual personalities. And so I find the number of theaters energizing, and I'm not sure there's an economic conflict there.
I'll get back to that in a second, but I want to interrupt myself and introduce Peter Bergman. God bless you for being here. I hope you didn't have difficulty getting on, or
No, I was having difficulty with my contractor. Sorry about that.
is he going to join you, or is he writing a play? No.
Neither one. He's not even working on my house.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking about the future for theater right now, and
Yes, I
in the
heard.
Berkshires and the problems. And one of the, but we had already talked about people's three top experiences. Would you like to jump in, or you not, and talk about that, or wait a minute or two?
I would like to jump in response to some of the things that Jeannie said.
Okay.
Regarding Williamstown and their strange season this year, I received 2 emails from them in the last week announcing how pleased they were with the way it went and how they intended to be their new system, their new format, to do 8 shows in 3 weekends again next year. I think it's a mistake. I was able to see 4 of their shows. One was great. 2 were lousy, and 1 was acceptable. I'm told I missed the best one, their ice show. But when I read about it, it did not appeal to me. It did not appeal to a lot of the people who read me. I'm sorry I missed it because I understand it was really quite spectacular. But that's the way it goes sometimes when you have as many theaters to review as I do. Regarding Jeff's comments just now on new audiences and expanding the audience, the fact that we have so many different kinds of theaters in the region, I think imposes its own sort of problem on attendance. So many of the major theaters were having difficulty getting full audiences. I don't think I attended more than one show this season that had a full house anywhere. Everybody was a third to a half empty, and that's a real problem because productions are still expensive, casts are still expensive, money needs to be raised to offset the fact that audience money is just not coming in. I think what we will see ultimately is a reduction in the number of theaters that are offering shows to see, which would be a great shame because yes, indeed, Jeffrey's right. They are all different and they come from a different place and they come from a different vision of theater and what they should be presenting, what they should be doing. I would miss the diversity terribly, but that's just me.
You was more than enough for us. Thank you. But on Jeffrey had something that he was saying about the theaters and Shakespeare. Last year, we remember that there was a merger in one sense of 2 theaters where Jim Frangione's play was put on at Shakespeare, and Jim Frangione's at the Great Barrington Public Theater, and who was in it? Alan Burroughs. So I thought that was a very interesting connection between 2 theaters, because in the past, they were all very individual. In fact, there was a lot of bad blood floating around. But then you had Jeannie and Kate negotiating together over the COVID distribution. And then also we were at Barrington Stage last week, and in the program, it thanked Barrington to Shakespeare and Berkshire Theatre Group for their cooperation in that production. I thought that caught my eye. I thought I hadn't seen that before. So perhaps the theaters are trying to figure out how to work together to the betterment and to the amusement of all of us. So I think that's nice, and that's quite good.
I think one of the things that I noticed this year and may play a role in terms of finances is that there were so many 2-character plays. So I'm wondering if a lot of the theaters are choosing these plays to do because they're less expensive, there's less people to pay. I mean, they've been wonderful 2-character shows, but I was, going through all my programs and really realizing how many, 2-character shows there are, and the smaller the cast, that seems to be enticing to the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
3
Absolutely.
too.
What do you think?
There've been 2 and 3 character plays. I think that's a really good point in how theaters are going to respond financially. Smaller casts, and I think more collaboration and cooperation between and among them.
One of the things that Julie Boyd had said some years ago is why she was putting on popular musicals, that she needed one blockbuster show which she would sell out, that it kept the cash flow to put on more provocative plays.
I think the theaters, going way back, not way back, but going back a number of years, have always borrowed materials, costumes or props or whatever else from each other. I've seen their names in various programs. Thank you to Shakespeare, or thank you to whomever. But that's longstanding.
I think another kind of collaboration we're seeing, though, is where 2 companies, well, a Berkshire company plus a company in Connecticut or some other place, does a production together. In other words, they pay for the production to be done in one place and then bring a piano lesson was not done here. It was ported in as such and then done at Shakespeare and Company. Thank goodness, because it's a fabulous production. And I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a positive, because I think just as in my view of the world, as the world is going on, the more we can do together, the stronger we will be. And I think the other thing that is happening is a lot more cabarets, readings, discussions of artists talking and inviting people to come. We're getting people into the theaters for something other than just the season shows.
Piano Lesson, Jeannie, was not a co-production. It was produced in Boston, and the production was brought lock, stock, and barrel, and the cast and everything to the Berkshires to be seen.
Okay,
However,
so that toured, right?
King James was a collaborative event. That's a very different kind of thing, where each company shares in the expenses of the initial production, and then the production moves.
You're right, Peter. I had misremembered on that. But there were some others, weren't there, of other companies where they would co-produced as such?
Not very many, but there were a lot of productions brought in from other companies.
I see we have in the chat, someone is asking for commentary from the critics regarding Berkshire Theatre Group's plans to renovate their main stage in Stockbridge.
I look forward to it. I've been
Yeah.
looking forward to it for 8 years.
Yeah.
They're now staying 5 years from now. And I have never, day or night, seen a work truck anywhere near the main stage. So I find it hard to believe they are actually doing anything. The last thing they did was to take out 5 rows of seats to install a cafe at the back of the orchestra. But the cafe was almost never open because there was always cast on stage rehearsing or warming up. So it was a very big, expensive, wasted effort.
Kate McGuire has talked about the renovation, and Peter, with someone with a memory like yours, you kind of keep us all honest, which is very embarrassing. But she's hoping to have a wider space and trying to do something that she maintains that the younger playwrights are doing something different technically. I cannot explain it or put words in her mouth, but she thought that they were a totally different kind of scene. And that's what she was, I think, envisioning, more of an open space, which could be adopted or adapted to various kinds of productions. But we will stand with you, Peter, to watch, to see what happens.
Good.
It doesn't happen until it happens.
The idea
Absolutely.
of a wider space is a little ridiculous considering the age of the building and its initial construction. There are 2 upright pillars on the stage which hold up the roof of the building. They have always been a problem for production at that theater. I worked there in 1980, 81, and 82, so I've witnessed the problems and witnessed a lot of the solutions. They cannot take those pillars out and make a wider stage. There is no way they can do that without tearing down the building and starting over. And to tear down that building, its historic references would be a major shame.
No, that not planning to. Anyway, you might have been talking to your current contractor you're having trouble with. Maybe he's involved with the project.
We
That's
have a
probably-
question
That's part of it.
from Jimmy Chu. Asked, do you think Berkshire Public will survive? Any thoughts about the victim? So 2 different questions. Berkshire Public, are we talking about Great Barrington Public perhaps, who's losing their space, as we know? Jimmy, I don't know if you can put in the chat. I'm not sure if you mean Berkshire, Great Barrington Public Theater. While we're waiting on that, his other question was, any thoughts about the victim? Did you all see the victim? Any thoughts on it?
I saw the victim. I'll start. Yeah, one of the people that I really loved in the victim was, I think she was this Yvette King, and she was terrific in that. She was my favorite in terms of the 3 stories, or I guess it's one story sort of told by 3 different points of view. So she was terrific. That's one of the things that I remember and noted. Yeah, And I think that I'm not so sure Great Barrington Public Theater is losing their space. I thought I read that they might not be, that they might stay where they are, but
They
They're
don't
in
know for
Barton.
sure because they don't know if the college is going to be sold, if it
Right.
will still be available to them. But I
Right.
believe Jim Frangione says very definitely that they will find a way to go forward.
right.
Well, Jim is on the committee that's looking into how that campus can be used. So he
Oh,
will have
good.
first dibs on stages. I know that Jeff saw The Victim because 2 years ago, both of us were at a reading of it, and you were very positive at the time. Did you then go on to see it or have any
I
other?
did. I remember that reading, and I was thinking this is a natural. This was last summer, summer of
Mhm.
2024.
Mhm.
And I sat there and was very moved by it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a natural for next season. What struck me, though, was the change in Annette Miller's approach to her role. I think overall the play is a very, very powerful piece of theater. In the reading, Annette took that character, the mother, in a very understated, straightforward approach that was hugely moving. She let the story tell itself. And in that, you could tell how she was affected by the events of her life, but not moved to chew the scenery. And that's what she did on stage in the Bernstein. And it really surprised me and jarred me. And to put it mildly, made me very unhappy
That was the
and
director's
perplexed.
choice. That must have been the director's choice.
Well, it may have been, was the same director. Perhaps in working on it between the reading and this, Daniel and Annette decided to go for this approach, or Annette decided she wanted to go for this approach and Daniel supported it. We don't know. All we know is what was there on the stage. And from my point of view, at least, it was way, way too much. And it drowned out a story that was, I think, deeply moving and touching on its own. And in terms of the writing, a perfect final piece to that.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, Jeff, because I know that she's a very, in some ways, famous, has done a ton of stuff, did Golda's Balcony, and I never saw that. So this is the first thing I saw her in, and my feeling was, all I could think of was the Wicked Witch at the end. Like there was that kind of voice that reminded me of that. So that totally took me out of the movingness when all I could hear was the Wicked Witch. So.
I just saw a chat, and the answer to your question is yes. I would have felt the same had I not seen the reading. I just think that that final section doesn't need Sturm und Drang and melodrama. It needs a straightforward telling with a sense of the emotional toll that it's taken on her, but you don't need to go to soap opera histrionics to do that. My feeling is that in this case, more was considerably less.
Well, that's interesting. I'm exceedingly fond of Annette Miller, and I will go to whatever she's in because there's such love of theater that is in her.
Absolutely.
What a rich gift to the audience.
I agree.
And it's exciting. I mean, what she did, and I think recently she also did in Boston, she did the Golda Meir.
Yep.
Golda's Balcony.
Which is Golda's Balcony, thank you, which is so demanding. And she's my favorite Energizer bunny. I mean, it's just that she could be on stage for 2.5 hours or something without faltering. Astonishing.
I agree. I find her a very, very compelling, skillful actress. I just felt in this particular instance, it was just pushing more than necessary.
I did not see the reading, but I did see the production, and I was very, very moved by Annette's performance. I was not by the other two women. I wish I had been. I've discussed it with several people who found the other actresses more compelling and more interesting in their monologues. But for me, what Annette's monologue did was to create a new sense of title, of who the victim really is in the play. And it's none of the three women on that stage. It's someone else, someone who was affected by the war in a different way and who provided Annette's character with an opportunity to move forward and live on. And that person was, for me, the title character, the victim. And I don't think I would have had that sense if Annette's performance had been softer.
You know, this is marvelous. I love the different points of view. It almost empowers the audience that they're allowed to make up their own minds because they could find someone who might agree with you. But also what's interesting is because all of you have had so much experience is to see the effects of a different director or a different production on a play. And it just helps us in our discernment of what we see and what we enjoy. Peter, you didn't get a chance to say what your three most popular events of the season were.
Well, it's
For you,
interesting.
your personal.
Other Desert Cities up at the Dorset Theatre Festival was for me one of the great pieces of theater, great set of performances I have ever seen. The entire Gill family, basically, were in it. That's Michael Gill, their son, and his wife, who has been a widely favored actress for years. The last time I saw them together was at the Berkshire Theatre Festival when they did a century-old play and brought it to new life. The same thing happened with Other Desert Cities. That was one. I loved the piano lesson. I thought it was a brilliant, brilliant set of performances, a very moving experience. And musically, oddly enough, at the Mac Hayden, their production of Guys and Dolls is one of the finest I have ever seen.
You might be surprised to hear that Jeff, who couldn't get there to review at a time, went to see it and he bought his own ticket, which I think is a sinful thing for a critic to do.
Absolutely.
And I loved it, Peter. I agree with you. It was just a stunning, stunning, stunning production.
It really was. John Saunders gave it a darkness I've never seen in it.
No,
before.
I'm sorry, I meant Other Desert Cities, not
Other
Guys and-
Desert Cities, yes. Wasn't that wonderful? Jane Atkinson was incredible. Lila Robbins was extraordinary. The whole cast, Elizabeth Stallman, excellent, excellent, excellent.
Can I step in here with a question from the chat?
Please.
Noreen Hurley asked, any thoughts on St. James? Since that one hasn't come up, I thought this was St. James at Barrington Stage.
King James.
It's King James, that's correct.
Because you think of the theater in Great Barrington, I was confusing that. St. James, King James, yeah.
I assume they mean the production.
Yeah.
So any thoughts?
I was disappointed. I thought the actors were wonderful. I thought the sets were extraordinary. I thought the play missed a lot of beats and came to an unbelievable, insecure ending that wasn't an ending at all, just a stopping point.
This is going to shock everyone, including you, Peter, but I agree with you absolutely.
Good to hear, Jeffrey. Thank you.
Yeah.
I find that we often agree.
Yes, we do.
And I took myself out of the comments there because it had to do with sports, and I went because I wanted to see what they did with it, but it's not a subject I can warm up to. So.
It actually didn't have to do with sports as much as it did with friendship.
Well, yes, that is true. And it was wonderfully acted and produced. I agree with you on that.
I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember walking out and going, wow.
Yeah.
I thought their interaction was very touching. Here may be a confession. Do you read each other's reviews?
I don't.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I read Jeff and Peter.
I only read a review after I've seen it. You know what I mean? I have to
Yeah.
see it first before
Right.
I read anybody's review. And then I'm
Exactly.
curious to see what they have to say,
I
if we
read
agree.
all the Berkshire on Stage reviews, for the most part.
Uh-huh.
I would
I read everybody's here.
You
I read
start at
everybody's
home, in
reviews.
other words. Right, Macey?
I'm sorry?
You start at home in the Berkshire on Stage reviews.
Mhm.
Yes.
I mean, I get Berkshire Edge and I get the Berkshire Eagle in my email. So I totally read them all. Yeah.
I get Berkshire Eagle online, and I get Berkshire Edge online,
Yeah, that's where I get it online, right? Mhm.
but I don't go
So-
through all of them.
Now, is there something that you would love to see next season? Either something new or appropriate to the theater? Is there something, it's some message you want to send to our artistic directors? Is there something you've been wanting to see, either a Shakespeare play or not at all, or some other old classic, whether comedy or drama?
I would love to see a production up here of the recent Broadway Tony Award-winning musical Some Like It Hot. It's a favorite film. I'm told that the show is somewhat different, but very dynamic and quite funny and wonderful. I didn't see it in New York. I missed it, and I would love to have a chance to see it up here.
Do you have someone you want to see it in, who you want to be in it?
No, not particularly.
You don't want to cast it right now? No?
No, thank you, but no.
Okay, anyone else have something they'd love to see that,
The first play I
Out
was
there.
in high school was You Can't Take It With You.
oh, mhm.
A
And
great comedy.
and being in that play changed my life. It showed me what theater is. I was a senior in high school.
Mhm.
And I just love the play.
It's funny. What role did you play, Macey?
The son-in-law, Ed.
Because I was in it in my senior year at high school also, and I played the father.
Oh, we
I
must
was
be
in it at summer camp and I played the crazy ballerina. I
That-
wanted the lead, but I wasn't good enough.
Can we get you all together for Ollie Players? We'll put you back in it.
I am reprising my role in 2 weeks. I played the mother in a play that Steve had written, and all of you may know Carol Fisher, and she has produced it in Pittsfield. She's producing it again at Kimball Farm, and she asked me to come and play that role.
Well,
it is commonly known my reputation is not as an actor, but rather as an agitator. And I was so thrilled. I thank Carol for so.
When are
It's
you doing
only-
it?
The date I think is Monday, the 27th of October. It's only 2 lines, but it's Stephen's most brilliant 2 lines.
what play is this?
Hmm?
What play is
Um,
this? Is
It's
this
Bliss Eternal.
The play is Bliss Eternal, and it has to do with 2 women meeting in heaven and realizing that they had been married to the same man.
Oh,
Actually, the story that triggered that for Steve was Helen, the Lincoln cabinet, where one of the cabinet members married a beautiful young woman. She died in childbirth. He married another beautiful young woman. She died in childbirth. So the question is, who gets dibbies in heaven? And what happens when 2 women are waiting for the same man?
Wow.
And
But it-
I'm not putting anything out there in public, but as my role as mother, I'm neither of those 2 women. So
I want to go back to Macy's comment about You Can't Take It With You. And I think
yes,
it's a wonderful play, and I have great fondness for that era of American theater.
Yeah.
But I think the reason we don't see those plays, especially in our current time, are for 2 reasons. One, the economics. It's a big cast.
Yes, it is true.
And I think like a whole lot of musicals that have great scores, but we don't see anymore, and we don't see them anymore because there's ways of dealing with characters in those plays and relationships. Annie Get Your Gun is one of them. How Native Americans are viewed in that the current climate raises some issues about stereotypes, and it makes producers perhaps willing, deservedly so, back away from material, even though the scores for some of these musicals may be just priceless. But there are issues that are raised now that were part of the, I hate to use this word, zeitgeist at the time that the shows were created, but there's a different attitude now.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, that's a very good point. I do remember that You Can't Take It With You was the first play that I remember reading and laughing out loud alone. That's not something I have done very much before, during, or after, but it was in that era. I think I was a teenager or something. It was a laugh out loud alone play. That's what I remembered it. So, but the point of things which are not really politically incorrect, but downright obnoxious, appear in some of the plays where you have to clean up the language.
No, I agree.
I'm going to throw in a personal plug. So what I'd love to see is, my husband is a member of the Berkshire Voices and writes plays. And I know all of you, many of you write plays as well, but I would love to see, he's written 3 full-length plays. I'd love to see one of his on a stage somewhere. So
Great.
that's
I
my,
support
that's my plug.
husbands.
Yes.
I
Richard
support
Reese,
plays-
he's written
playwrights.
three great plays, and I'd love to see any one of them on a stage.
Are the Voices putting on productions still or not?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They do. Yeah. It's not easy though. You know, there's like, I don't know how they decide and who gets who gets a reading and who gets a full length. It's a whole process, but.
I had an interesting experience. I have a small writers group. We meet every other week. Some of us write memoirs, some write fiction, some write poetry. And one of the members met David Rabe at a barbecue. And he lives up here where we live. And she invited him to come to one of our meetings. And he came. And for those of you who don't know what he wrote, one of the most powerful plays I ever saw was Sticks and Bones. You know it?
Yep.
Yeah. Very difficult play. And the theater I ran on Long Island, we did his Streamers, another difficult play. And I asked him, what's his approach to writing? And he said, impulse. Whatever comes out, I put it down on paper and then I fix it. And as an English teacher, that's what I told my kids. Same thing. So very interesting man. He lost Jill Clayburgh, who was his wife.
Right.
Yeah. And we almost bought a house next door to them.
Lily Rabe is his daughter, right? And Lily
Lily
Rabe is a
is
very
his
big
daughter, yeah.
actress,
Yeah.
right?
And her husband is Hamish Linklater,
Yes, right.
whose mother is the theater speech person.
At Shakes and Co.
At Shakespeare.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd throw that as a diversion.
Oh, that's a nice diversion. I saw they have the whole family, is represented. That's just great. One of his plays, I think, was also at the Shakespeare in New York, that is the public theater. Didn't Streamers play there? I think I have his poster hanging up in my loft for Streamers.
Yeah. We did Sticks and Bones there too. They had interesting comments about Joe Papp.
Yes, the jump up all the who is the who did all the posters for Joe Papp, Pushpin Theater, Pushpin Studio. What is the name? He used to wear Milton Glaser, right? He used to wear a white linen suit and review plays or write posters. Jeannie, you had a question, or no?
Oh, I was back on the question of things I'd like to see. And it's just
Oh,
because
yes.
I really want to see it again somewhere. I wish they would do it here. Operation Mincemeat, a musical that was done by a British group in
And it's
New
in the
York.
Broadway right now.
In Broadway.
Yeah, I think, did it not close? Is it still running?
No, it's still on. It's
Oh,
still
go
on.
see it if you have a chance. Don't I'll go back to New York.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We do have a question in the chat. There have been a couple of references to a difficult play. What makes a play difficult?
The-
And
These
like-
days, principally the size of the company.
To put on or to watch? I mean, what's the question? Yeah.
I expect we've used it both ways in our chat.
I, I would say difficult could refer to any number of things, one of which the technical demands of the play.
Metamorphosis.
I would agree with that,
Subject-
but even more
sub-
so is the emotional demands of the actor.
That's what I was just about to get to, Macey. Good. Yeah.
Two great minds.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The demands, the emotional demands that it makes on.
I have
on the-
I've directed probably over 150 plays. And some casts find things very difficult because the play becomes in some ways, not through the entire cast, becomes very personal. I've had actors and actresses go off in the corner and take deep sighs and even shed a tear or two. So yeah.
I would also
difficult.
say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Mason.
Again, the most difficult thing
Please
is
interrupt.
dealing with your emotions, the actor's emotions and the director's emotions.
And let's not forget the audience's emotions. I mean, I think that's strong too. I think the subject matter of a play can pose enormous challenges to an audience, especially if the production is right on target. A play can be deeply unsettling, controversial, which I think is good. I think theater should, as much as I love theater that is just, I love going to the theater knowing this is not a play I'm going to have to write deep stuff about. This is just froth for the evening. But theater also should stimulate discussion. And I think a play can be difficult because it poses really tough questions for an audience.
Plays can be painful.
Yes.
And there's a man, Andrew Jaffe here, who's a very good director and actor. And he was having trouble casting of part because there was a Nazi and no actor wanted to play the role. And he's saying, you're an actor, you play what role is in the, in the play. That's the whole point of it. And he had to play it himself because difficult was for the actor to play the role, which I thought was, and I thought his reaction to it was quite professional, quite interesting.
I worked with Andrew a number of times.
Yeah, he's wonderful, isn't he?
Yes, sweet man.
Very.
Patricia Decker says in the chat, what plays are examples of very emotional challenges? I would go back to The Mother, that and I think The Victim, I think both of those plays, they take you into worlds that are not easy to confront. And so, and yet you want to know the story. You want to know how people have dealt with those challenges, because that's what theater does, where storytelling gives us some ways to cope with problems in our own lives.
There's
I
a
would
light,
say, go ahead, Peter.
I was going to say there's a light comedy that I saw again this summer called Sylvia, which is a play about a dog, a female dog. Emotionally, it should be fairly straightforward and simple, but it becomes an emotional rivalry between Sylvia and the man's wife. And it gets very difficult. And the production in Sharon was extraordinary in that Jen Cody, who played the dog,
Oh God, is she wonderful.
gave a performance that was heartrending.
Yeah.
She was so needy as the dog, so emotionally imperative
And
that the
so
wife,
funny, so
Yes.
funny.
yes, and the wife's role became that of a fairly abusive human being,
Yeah,
very emotionally difficult.
I would say Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and Long Day's Journey into Night.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Look, I did Kate in All My Sons, and people would say to me, "Did you have a good time?" And I really couldn't say I had a great time. I mean, it was a challenge, and it was all those things, but it wasn't fun. It was not fun. It's a tragic part and a tragic story, and that was not fun. And look, I just did Jeannie's play with Ollie, The Last Romance, and that was just fun. That was fun and joyful, and
And you
I
were
love
great.
that Well, thank you. And I love that I wasn't on the stage the whole time. I wasn't responsible for the whole play. Anyway, so there's a big difference, I think, as an actor when you're doing something that's difficult. It's just
I've
not so
directed,
fun.
I've
And then when you have to
directed,
do it like several performances, you like, I can't even be done with it after that. You have to keep doing it.
I've directed all my sons. And the scene, if you know the play, and I know you do, where Chris confronts Joe about what he has done. When I directed the stage, another digression, the stage directions in the script is that Chris beats Joe on his chest, yelling, "What have you done? What have you done? What am I going to do with you?" What I did, I had him start to beat his chest and then hug him, still saying, "What am I going to do with you?"
Hmm.
That was hurtful.
Interesting. There was a play that comes to mind that was on at Barrington Stage a couple of years ago. It was a one-man show, and it was on the Japanese relocation, and where the actor, who I think was Hispanic, but he was playing a Japanese man who had sued the Supreme Court, sued the U.S. and the Supreme Court for the relocation of thousands and thousands of Japanese people. And here, the hard thing is that we knew it was true, and that the U.S. was guilty of this ghastly thing on dealing with citizens, and unfortunately, it's relevant today. So, but that was a one-man show, and it was the history of it that was so upsetting, but also a very powerful piece. I'm sure you all remember it. So the name escapes me, but I certainly remember it. All right, we are veering to the end of our time. We still do have a few minutes left. So I'd like to hear from you what you think is really going to happen in 2026.
I'm going to have a birthday.
Yes?
I'm going to have a birthday.
We all
Yes.
are, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to celebrate it? We're going to a play or writing one?
I don't know yet. It's too soon.
With a bit of luck, we'll all have a birthday next year. Though I don't welcome any of mine anymore.
Let me
Steve,
tell you.
Peter, what have you been doing this year?
A lot of theater, a lot of rebuilding my house, which is still going on. It's lasted a lot longer than the theater season, unfortunately. And I have been journeying through the experience of seeking a new mate. With the loss of my husband a year and a half ago, it's been a lonely time. And a lot of my friends, who I still think of as friends, have kind of disappeared out of my life. I leave messages for them. They do not call me back. They don't contact me. It takes me back to when I first moved to the Berkshires, where I knew a lot of people, but only one of them would ever have me over to dinner or go out to dinner with me or do anything with me during the week. All of my friends would wait for the weekends when Bob was here and have us in as a couple. And I think that a single person, particularly a single man, is seen as a threat to other relationships. This is what I've come to.
I'm sorry to hear that. And I remember years ago, after we first met, you were standing at the bottom of the steps of my house. I was having a party, and you said, "How come we haven't met before? We will know all the same people." Because you were at the base of the stairs greeting my guests coming in. You knew them all, and that was very
Yes.
charming.
I remember that well.
Then you'll come back.
I would love to.
I saw you also were in the neighbor thing. You were looking for someone to clean your house. I'm not going to do that.
That's okay. I think this morning I found somebody who will find out.
So, Paula, how have you enjoyed your first sit down with our charming panel?
Yeah, it was it's you know, the whole trajectory of what my life has turned into since I moved here has really been a thrill. You know, it's just doing everything I love to do. I take dance 3 times a week at Berkshire Pulse. I play tennis twice a week. I still work as a psychologist, which is my job. And I see a ton of theater and dance and art, and this is a wonderful place to live. So I'm thrilled to be part of this group, and I've totally loved writing reviews. I really Macey asked me to start doing it. I didn't know if it was something that I knew how to do and would enjoy doing, and it's worked out well. So I'm thrilled to be able to continue to do that.
That's exciting to create a whole new career. Well,
Really
you
feels
said
that
you'd
way.
been acting as for forever, but the
Well, I hadn't done any
reporting for-
acting recently till I came up here, so that was fun. And yeah, doing everything I love to do. So I've been very happy.
You know, so many people look forward to this event and to seeing you all. I'm not sure, but I think it was Dan Dwyer who suggested we meet again after the show, and that was kind of brilliant. Maybe one of you had done that, but it's really nice getting together. I know that you guys really work hard. Peter has an astronomical number that he goes to, more than 7 nights a week because he throws in a few matinees. Have you all, do you all keep numbers? Jeff, can you cite a number of how many plays you saw this year?
No, a lot. And we're not done yet. I mean, you
Yep.
know, they're like
What's still running? That's a good thing to end on. Metamorphosis is still running. The Witch is just beginning, right?
The
The
one
Mother-
Bridge Street,
Like
the Bridge
Fruit.
Street one is running. The
Like
Ruby,
Fruit is running.
Right.
yeah.
And Shakespeare still has
Oh, it
And
has
this-
the Jewish plays this weekend.
This weekend is the Jewish plays. I'm seeing the price on Friday night. So
The reading.
Metamorphosis
Anyone have any
is still
idea?
running.
Why did we have so many sort of Jewish led plays this year? Though Barrington Stage did pull the Yom Kippur play, which
well, this is like a weekend they're devoting to Jewish plays that Shakespeare and Company is doing. So
And they're reading. They're Arthur Miller
it.
and Old
Yeah.
Standards. Yeah.
yeah.
why? Do we
Wendy
know why?
Washington.
Is Alan Burroughs converting or?
Well, look, it's October 7th. It's a tough day for many people in the world. Let's
And
think
I would,
about that.
I would also say that it is the Jews who principally support theater. Most of the investment into theaters comes from the Jewish community. So why
And-
not honor that?
And you know, if we think of Spamalot, there's that song, right?
Yeah,
With the Jews.
Jews
Which-
of Brooklyn.
Yeah. So there's lots of
Okay, well, that's good. In any event, yes, this is a strange day. When I saw that we were doing this on October 7th, I hadn't put the pieces together initially when I
It's
set
2
this up.
years today that we want those hostages released. for
I
sure.
know, I've been, and the last thing I did was on 9/11, so I seem to have a taste for the disasters of the world.
You're like-
Which neither of you are. So I'd like to thank you all again. You're very generous with your time. I really appreciate it. You come together and it's you do good theater. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Till
you.
next spring. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
at the theater.
Good.
Goodbye, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Hey.
Take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Well done. Mhm.